As far as diving into some of these prospects, we're going to go down this list, of course. Casey can talk all baseball, all areas of the Dodgers, but of course, his super area of expertise is at the minor league level because he's around these guys. He interviews these guys. He's completely locked in on Dodgers prospects as much as anyone on planet Earth, right? So we're going to start with Dalton Rushing.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Strike three. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Mookie Betts cranks one left field.
They're going to make big signings. They're going to make impact trades. I don't care how many times this team rips my heart out. I'll never stop loving the Los Angeles Dodgers. Think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out. I interviewed Dalton Rushing last year. I was so impressed just with his character, with the way he carried himself. I mean, this guy just screams big league talent. It's tough to find a more refined bat at the minor league level. Mature hitter, patient hitter. The at-bat quality is there. What can you tell me about Dalton Rushing, and why is he the top prospect in the Dodgers organization?
Well, first of all, he came from Louisville, of which we've had pretty good success with Louisville catchers, right? Will Smith. And then also they produced Henry Davis, which is why Dalton Rushing was not the everyday catcher at Louisville until basically his last year there, because Henry Davis was not a first-round draft pick, but the number one pick of the 2022 draft. So we got to learn under him, got to save his knees, got to save his legs a little bit. And also Dalton Rushing, I've talked to Dylan Ashotka about this, who is the hitting coach at Rancho Cucamonga, and then also Dave Anderson, who matter of fact, I just released my interview with Dave Anderson, who's the pitching coach with the Loons. And the catchers are the only position on the field that actually have crossover. So they deal with the pitchers and the pitchers meetings, and they also have to go to all of the position player meetings as well. So Dave Anderson had a unique perspective on how him and Diego Cartaya both, they lead those meetings. They know more about the other team's hitters than those hitters know about themselves. So from all of the intangible perspectives, the hard work, the meeting type aspects of it, the game calling, they are going to be all over that. And Dalton Rushing defensively, I have a couple of videos, threw a couple guys out from his knees. So defensively, he became a lot better. And then offensively, this year was a little bit different for him. That first full year as a professional, especially as a catcher. Just go look at all the catchers in the major leagues and look at their first years in professional baseball. It's not as easy as people think. Just look at Will Smith's numbers in the minor leagues, especially his first full year in the minors. It's an interesting deal. And then he had the concussion protocol. He dealt with some injuries. But this guy right here, you talk about the flat swing. You talk about not – okay, so here is the number one thing jumping from level to level, Doug. It is, for a hitter, it's pitch recognition. So if you're not swinging at the right pitches, you're probably not going to make a successful jump to the next level. As a pitcher, it's, Ryan Pepio, he learned this. If you throw it 3 inches off the plate, as you get older, he got to the major leagues, he's throwing it 3 inches off the plate and they weren't swinging at it. And he's like, well, how in the world did this guy? Well, because they're the best players in the world, right? So as a hitter, one thing, not just the power, not just the flat swing, the hit tool, it is the fact that what really translates into jumping levels is the fact that if you swing at the right pitches, and then you also have the talent of Dalton Rushing, that's the type of guy that you could project will make it as he continues to jump.
Yeah, and you look at that, the batting, I've read the 220, but still the exit velocity, some of those batted ball numbers, they were still consistent. I still have all the confidence in the world. I just love the patience. I love the pop. I love the mental makeup. Now, as far as his future with the Dodgers, right, are we thinking 2025? You got 2 more years of team control for Will Smith. Are you comfortable saying, okay, he's the future catcher of the Dodgers if they don't re-sign Will Smith?
I don't think you have to say he is, quote unquote, the future of the Dodgers. When you look at the future of the catching position, Dodgers, please listen. I love the prospects. You know that, D-Mac. Please re-sign Will Smith. These guys don't grow on trees, right? I know they avoided arbitration with him. Sign him to whatever long deal you need. This dude is awesome, right? Okay, so I say that coming from, like I said, I come from the LA perspective, from the lens of the prospects. So you don't have to say Dalton Rushing is the future at the catcher position. The great thing about him, he played a ton of first base at the college level, at a very high level at Louisville. So as Freddie Freeman ages, I think it's not necessarily, do you see him as the next starting catcher. I think it's a little bit more. There's a little more complex to that. I think you can also look at the Freddie Freeman situation, the DH situation, and see which way you're going there and which way you could plug him in. So I think there's multiple ways you could go with Dalton Rushing. I don't think it's as simple as saying, is he the future at catcher for the Dodgers?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the reality is, I remember talking to him, and he just wants to play, and he wants to have a role any way he can. It's a similar situation all these elite prospects have. The Dodgers are always going to have a lot of elite talent at the big league level, blocking guys at certain positions. I think that Will Smith as a extension made a lot of sense. I've done multiple videos on how to pursue an extension. It just doesn't seem like that's what this organization is going to do. It just doesn't happen. It hasn't been a part of their process, but still, you can never have enough talent. Dalton Rushing, he's going to help this organization. He's going to help out some other organization, or he's going to help this organization acquire talent to get a World Series title. So look, I still think that he's just a very, very impressive young player in this farm system. And I think that, you mentioned the concussion and what he dealt with. I'm not worried at all about those batting averages and that kind of stuff being down. Now, as far as Josue De Paula, to me, he's one of the most intriguing, exciting, high upside prospects in this organization that we've seen in years. 6'3", 185, still feels like he's getting bigger. He's going to fill out a little bit. Of course, the Dodgers signed him out of the DR in 2022, related to, I think he's like the cousin of Stephon Marbury, something like that, right? So he's got that connection. That swing, from what you've seen from it, it's pretty. It's got that pretty left-handed swing, got that natural bat path. He's someone that hits line drives, can opposite field, can pull the ball. How high are you on a Josue De Paula? Do you think that this player is as special as a lot of people are billing him out to be?
Okay, so first of all, let me preface this by saying that I'm of the opinion, having seen these minor league guys and watching basically every minor league game, that unless it's a Rancho game at home, because they don't have a video feed, they need to get that fixed, by the way, right? Especially if they're going to have the outfield they have last year and you have Ronaldo Yin throwing 100 miles an hour. Okay, I don't like to say a guy's untouchable or that he projects to be an all-star, this or that, really until they jump to the AA level. I can tell you that AA level, okay, I say it all the time, if you're not talented enough, you die at AA, because AA players are talented enough. They just need opportunity at that point. Okay, then if you're not skilled enough, like let's say you have enough talent, but you're not skilled enough, like you can't throw enough strikes. Yes, your off-speed pitches are insane, but they're not in the zone. Well, kind of like Ryan Pepio's changeup was the first time that he came up, right? Okay, if you're not skilled enough, you die at the AAA level. So the guys that make the major leagues are the guys that are talented enough and skilled enough, right? So I don't like to make that assumption. I don't like to put that on the back of a Josue De Paula when they're as young as he is, still at the single A level, still facing pitchers that are throwing 150 miles an hour, but it's behind you one pitch, it's in front of. Well, why isn't he hitting home runs? Well, have you seen the pitches he's trying to swing at half the time? I mean, half of them are hitting the mascot going in the. I mean, Tim Rogers will tell you this, right? Okay, so having said that, he hit 2 home runs last year. I compare him to Bernie Williams. When I see him hit, he just has Bernie Williams all over him. The power is going to come. What I hope doesn't happen is that because he only hits 2 home runs, you try to add lift to his swing. Now you don't have the same Josue De Paula. The one thing that he brings is just that sweet left-handed swing. And just because the ball's not leaving the yard doesn't mean that you're not hitting the ball hard. He still hits the baseball very, very hard. And if you follow Perry Husband at all, he'll tell you, and he breaks down all these advanced analytics, if you hit a baseball 95 miles an hour or over, doesn't matter if it's on the ground, doesn't matter the launch angle, likely is about 50% of the time it's going to be a base hit. So he has that sweet swing. I hope they allow him to grow his power naturally and not, artificially try to add lift to it. So I love Josue De Paula. What I would say about him is, hey, let's cool the jets just because he's so young. He's still at the single A level. Let's not put those kind of expectations on a guy that's that young. Let's let him breathe a little bit.
I like that. Pump the brakes a little bit. I will say that I don't know if he can be as good of a baseball player as Bernie Williams. He definitely won't be as good as a guitar player as Bernie Williams. He made his Philharmonic debuts yet in New York. Shout out to Bernie Williams doing big things after baseball. But yeah, no, I think that tempering those expectations until you see him get it done at the higher levels, I think that's definitely fair. I will say just the way he hits the ball. I mean, 102 miles per hour, a 90th percentile. I mean, look at the exit velocities and just those low launch angles, the way he hits line drives. I agree with you. You're going to see that slug go up. There's no doubt about that. Just has the tools, has the frame. I think you mentioned Tim Rogers. Tim Rogers was throwing out Juan Soto. I'm like, Juan Soto, that's a once-in-a-generation type player. Just imagine if you could get a star like that in your organization. Now, next, Nick Frasso. Now, we talked about Jackson Ferris, right, and how they're able to acquire him in this deal. You look at Nick Frasso, they get him from the Toronto Blue Jays, LMU guy who's acquired in that Mitch White trade, had his first full season since TJ in 2021. And I think for me, just look at him. I mean, that slider, that delivery, that deceptive delivery right there. He's got that fastball with the arm side run. What do you love about Frasso, Casey?
First of all, he's long and he's lanky. I call it knees and elbows because as a hitter, that's all you see. You don't see the ball. You just see his elbows, you see his knees, and then all of a sudden you see 100 miles an hour. You mentioned the TJ. Matter of fact, he had the 2020 season, then had the TJ. And then his first game back with Toronto, he went over 100 miles an hour, hadn't pitched in basically a couple of years, went over 100 miles an hour like 5 different times in his first time back. So this is a guy squarely that can throw the ball over 100 miles an hour, and then he's long. The extension with Nick Frasso. So, hey, it's one thing like Brusdar Graterol. He throws 99. You go, well, why didn't he strike anybody out? Well, that's because his extension's not very good. So, you start 60 foot 6 inches, and then if you don't have a very long stride, you're having to throw the ball a further distance than somebody that reaches out, say, 7 feet with their extension. So to a hitter, Brusdar Graterol's 99 looks like 94 or 95, but maybe a 94, 95 with longer extension looks like 99 to a hitter. So not only does Nick Frasso have the velo, he can reach over 100. He also has the extension. So the effective velocity, how fast it looks to a hitter, is actually even faster than what he's actually throwing. So he has a little bit of everything with that fastball. Then when you add the fact that he lands towards the third base side, which means he crossfires, which means as a right-hander, it feels like the ball's coming out of his hand from behind you at 100 miles an hour. Then it's knees and elbows. It's deceptive. There is a lot to like with Nick Frasso. He has to stay healthy. Health has been the only thing that has held him back. And it's the only thing, in my opinion, going forward that would hold him back. That's what I'll say about Nick Frasso.
Yeah, and I was just about to ask you that, Casey, because you saw towards the end of the season, the velo went down just a little bit. The spin went down just a little bit. Do you think that he's going to be someone that's going to grow into the type of pitcher that could handle a big league type of workload as a starter?
I would see him, being a 2-pitch, maybe probably a 3-pitch guy, the slider and changeup and fastball guy. And I could see him maybe being a guy that adds versatility, maybe an Evan Phillips type of guy. I could definitely see that in his future. I could also see him being a starter, but I would have to say right now, just looking at the numbers for the Dodgers, let me put it to you this way. In the Dodgers organization, I think he's probably bullpen. And then, kind of like they used Michael Grove last year, an occasional spot start, kind of a swingman type of guy. In any other organization, he's a starter. But just do the math. These players are told every day, Doug, hey, do the math. Look around you, man. We got dudes. We got 9 starting spots. We got 26 spots on our active roster. We got 40 total spots, and we got like 7,000 dudes in this organization, right? So do the math. From a math perspective, I would say he's a bullpen guy, and I think that fits him perfectly because like we saw with Ronan Kopp, you take that extension, you take that herky-jerkiness, and you allow the other team to only see it once, and then you tell Nick, hey, don't conserve. Go out and just empty the tank from pitch 1, and now that 9,900 plays up even more than that, like I think you might see with Dustin May. If they move Dustin May to the bullpen, now you got something really nasty.
Yeah, and you do expect him to see him in this bullpen in 2024?
I think there's a very good chance. Again, it's going to come down to health for Nick Frasso.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, his stuff though, he's just so fun to watch pitch. He's got that like Lucas Giolito top of the zone type changeup right there, the slider, the fastball, the herky-jerky, funky delivery. Love watching pitches like that. Now, next one, of course, Gavin Stone. Got to talk some Gavin Stone. A very fascinating first year in the show, of course. If you look at the numbers, nothing's going to scream, okay, he's someone that really realized that potential coming into the season as one of the more hyped Dodgers prospects. He made his debut before Bobby Miller did, at a 14.4 ERA through his first 3 starts. You look at his strikeout to walk ratio, wasn't great. Just everything to me when it came to Gavin Stone was, one, just relied a little too much on that fastball changeup combination. Need that third pitch. And 2, he was just so hittable. I mean, if you look at the batting averages against, like, just too hittable at the big league level. Did get some success, brought that cutter back, was working on some different pitches there and changing up his arsenal there at the minor league level. But did you see enough from him towards the end of the season at the minor league level to really feel good and give him some momentum heading into the 2024 season where he could get another opportunity in the show?
100%. And if you go back to my conversation with Alex Friedman, the AAA play-by-play voice, he actually takes you through this whole scenario with Gavin Stone. And if you look at Gavin Stone's playoff performance for the AAA Oklahoma City Dodgers, who, by the way, won the PCL championship since the first time since all the way back in 1996, of which Jack Dreyer, who is a tremendous lefty in our organization this last year for the Loons, his dad was actually on that team. And the team name, I'll just say this, was the 89ers, Doug. I'm going to throw that one out there, right? For the AAA team. Got to be the 89ers, right? Okay, so just looking at Gavin Stone, just go back to the Alex Friedman talk on that. He made some tremendous adjustments, and you could really see it click with him. Adjustment number 1, you mentioned that he was too hittable. The reason is it's real simple. I mean, we like to make this rocket science. We like to go through all these advanced analytics. When you're throwing ball 1 instead of strike 1, you are going to be hittable at every level in baseball. And that's what's happening to Gavin Stone. He didn't have a pitch that he felt like, in my opinion, that he could throw to a major league hitter early in the count that wasn't going to get ambushed, right? So he was trying to play with the margins on the corners of the plate. And what we saw with him is, instead of being strike 1, it was ball 1. That's why I think the 2-seam, bringing that back into his arsenal, and then the cutter, making him a little bit more east and west. So the best pitchers, Doug, are the pitchers that can attack hitters north and south with the high riding 4-seam, the tumbling changeups, and then also east and west with the right turning 2-seams, the left turning cutters that don't have depth. And the reason why that is, your east-west arsenal, of which Gavin Stone incorporated into his adjustments last year, those are your strike pitches, right? Your north-south stuff, your high riding 4-seam, your tumbling changeups, those need to be your strikeout pitches. And so what Gavin Stone had last year were strikeout pitches, but he didn't have strike pitches. And because he didn't have strike pitches, then he got behind in the count. And now we're throwing up something that a major league hitter is just going to sit on. He's going to hit it. He's going to know what's coming. And if a major league hitter knows what's coming against a guy like Gavin Stone, who's not throwing 100 miles an hour, it's not going to be successful. So the East-West, in my opinion, adjustment that he made last year, got comfortable with. It got him ahead in the count. So now that changeup, he doesn't have to throw it for a strike. He can tumble it out of the zone because he's ahead in the count. Even major league hitters, as disciplined as they are, they will chase the zone if they're down in the count. I think that's the adjustment that Dodgers fans should be excited about with Gavin Stone.
Okay, you got me juiced about Gavin Stone once again. Yeah, I think early on, too, you just see he didn't have the confidence in his stuff. And then he's kind of nibbling out of the zone. Then when he was in the zone, he was getting hit a lot. And I think for him, it's just a great learning experience, too, just to take everything and then refine it at the minor league level. And then you mentioned his performance in the PCL championship. I remember watching that. And for me, it was the whiffs, 19 whiffs in that game. You saw the swing and miss, the confidence, the mound presence. And I will say this. My warning to Dodgers fans, I want to remind you this. A lot of people wrote off Ryan Pepiot. Yes. And what did Ryan Pepiot do? Made some adjustments, got the best shape of his life, started throwing more strikes, put himself in a great position, and now he's off to Tampa Bay. I miss Ryan Pepiot. But just look at that there. I mean, you can see a big giant leap in year 2. Yeah. That first cup of coffee, lots to learn. I agree with you 100% on Stone on that one.
You mentioned Pepiot getting in shape. And another thing that he did last offseason, Doug, was that he made his slider smaller. He made it more horizontal. And what that did for him was making that slider smaller. It meant that he could throw it for a strike. So now instead of throwing that big slider that had a lot that major league hitters aren't swinging at, so instead of being ball 1, now you're throwing a smaller slider. Now it's strike 1. Now that changeup for Ryan Pepiot, kind of what I'm talking about with Gavin Stone, is effective because you're throwing it in your count instead of hitters' counts.
Yeah, look, the reality, too, is if it's your first year, if you get a Bobby Miller, great. If you get a Bobby Miller that can just hit the ground running and take off, that's fine. But look at those flashes. Just go back and look at his appearance. He had the 6 strong innings in Boston. If he doesn't come out for that next inning, give the 2 home runs to Justin Turner and to Adam Duvall, you're going to feel really good about that. So there were some flashes there, and I agree with you. I still think that you can't write off Gavin Stone. I still think that there's a world where he's a contributor this season. People need to start talking about him a little more. Now, excited to talk about this next one, too. You talk about this Dodgers organization. They're a catcher's factory, man. They got a lab somewhere. They're building catchers. I don't know what they're doing, but you got Tyrone Loronzo. And you look at him and his frame, 6'3", 195, just someone who hits the ball hard. He's got thunderous power. How high are you on him?
Oh, he's going to be a rock star. Hey, I said earlier, you don't put the pressure on these guys when they're in the single A level. You wait till they're double A. You're asking me as far as, okay, what do you think of him, where he's at right now? This guy in a game, Doug. So we say, well, Dodgers don't throw anybody out stealing bases. That was a problem, right? Tyrone Loronzo, he had a sub 1.8 pop time in a game. This guy is a rock star. Jeez. He can hit balls to the moon. He has bat-to-ball skills. He is a ridiculously good defensive player. I would bet to say that just from a sheer talent perspective and upside perspective, there's not a better catcher as good as Diego Cartaya is, as good as Dalton Rushing is, just from a tools perspective and an upside perspective. Again, don't get excited about these guys where they're in single A because they're in single A. Get excited about them when they get to double A. I don't mean it from that perspective. I'm just talking about from a scouting perspective, from a tools perspective, from an upside perspective. I'm not sure there is a catcher in our organization. I don't see all the other teams' catchers as much. I know MJ Melendez. I got to see him a lot when he was in the Royals organization. He still is the most impressive catcher I've seen at the minor league level. I think Tyrone Loronzo has that kind of talent. I am that high on his tools and his talent and his upside. Having said that, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him. He's still at the single A level, and so we'll have to wait and see how he adjusts as he moves up levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Tyrone Loronzo, that is absolutely a name to keep your eyes on. I mean, he slugged 562 at 24 bombs in Rancho. Another guy, elite exit velocity. He's a switch hitter. One thing I want to ask you, though, as far as bat to ball and contact rates, is a situation where him would you just kind of want him to be who he is, or do you think it to kind of reduce some of that variance, you want to improve the contact rates, or do you think, hey, just do what you do? If you got to sell out for power, just do that and kind of be who you are?
Well, one great thing about this, I don't know if you've ever talked to Dylan Ashotka, the hitting coach for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. This guy's a rock star coach, man. He was with the Loons, and then he came down. So he worked with Diego Cartaya the year that Diego Cartaya had the great year. Then he came down to the Quakes last year. He got to work with Lorenzo, Simon Reed, Jesus Calise, and all these guys, Jorge Puerta. And it's no secret that they all got better, right? Okay, so the thing that Dylan Ashotka will say, and I love this, I told him I was going to steal this from him, and I was going to say it, and I wasn't going to give him credit for it. So I'm giving him credit for it right now, okay? He talks about having a big gulp, right? We've all been to 7-Eleven, and we've gotten a big gulp, right? So if you have talent like Tyrone Loronzo, let's figure out how to become a big gulp. Let's not be a 12-ounce drink. So when you say, hey, bat-to-ball skills, all of this, what I can tell you is the Dodgers are going to try to figure out how to make Tyrone Loronzo a big gulp. They will deal with some swing and miss. They will deal with some bat-to-ball skills as long as in their mind he is tapping out every bit of potential. What they won't do is say, hey, you still have this potential over here, but we're worried about you swinging and missing a little bit too much, so we're going to cap this potential to get you to hit the ball more. They are not going to do that. They are going to continue to allow him to become a big gulp, something of which he's capable of doing.
Wow. Sounds like a special talent, some guy that really has a bright future in this sport. Very excited about him. And like I said, I mean, I think he's someone that's the prodigious power that he hits the ball with. It's just so fun to watch.
Again, Doug, I'd like to say he's single A level.
Another guy they acquired through a trade, drafted in the 11th round, the 2021 draft by the Padres. And the Dodgers, they acquired him in the Matt Beatty trade. He's a converted shortstop. This is someone electric, high 90s fastball, can hit 100, got the slider, has that more of a sinking type of fastball, can keep the ball in the yard, generate ground balls. Talk about River Ryan, Casey.
Yeah, River Ryan, a young man, if I always say, you talk about position players pitching, right? Well, if you had to take a pitcher that had to be a position player, hands down, everybody would pick River Ryan. He was an All-American shortstop at UNC Pembroke, was probably going to go to North Carolina like his brother did, Ryder, who was in AAA last year, but he hurt his back in high school, so college just kind of backed off. So two-way player with the Padres. When he came to the Dodgers told him he's going to pitch. Okay, so pound for pound, I'll say this fairly confidently, the best athlete in the organization. The guy can windmill dunk. That's how athletic he is. I say that only to say, we saw it with Ryan Pepio. The more athletic you are, the easier it is to access the strike zone. The easier it is to get your body in positions to not only access the strike zone, but then to also be deceptive and to be able to move the ball and to manipulate the ball a lot easier. River Ryan is a guy, you talk to these guys who go to college and love the team aspect of it, and he does too, don't get me wrong. But they love just the kind of the camaraderie of it and the process of it. River Ryan loves all that, don't get me wrong, but he views the minor leagues as nothing other than an avenue to the major leagues. That's how he thinks. He thinks like a major leaguer. He pitches like a major leaguer. I say all the time, his strikeout rates are above 10%. Okay, but like every other prospect in the Dodgers organization, I don't mean this to be negative. He needs to get his walk rate under 3%, under 3 per 9 innings, I should say. Okay, so if he can keep his strikeout rate at 10, 11, 12, like he's been able to do per 9 innings, and then lower that from, say, 4.5 per 9, 5 per 9, down to about 3 per 9, of which he's totally capable of doing. If he's able to do that, watch out, because this guy's electric.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because you saw the strikeout rate drop when he went to AA, went up again those 2 games at the AAA level. But do you make anything of that?
Yeah, well, you're using the automatic balls and strike system at the AAA level on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then you're using the challenge system over the weekend. So that would be one of the first things that, and by the way, I love the challenge system. The fans who haven't seen it, I'm actually going to do a hot take on that. I've talked to players. I've talked to Travis Barbary, the AAA manager, Alex Friedman. I've talked to every single play-by-play guy. Whenever I'm in the press box, asked them what they think. To a man, everybody loves the challenge system. I'll get into more. We're not going to get off on that. But yeah, so I think, the automated system, it's not a human calling it. So the automated system was calling it a strike, that kind of deal. I think that helped too. And then also, the AA level is a very difficult jump, Doug. It is a very hard jump. I say this all the time, to the AA level. And then, and then also you have all these other guys that have the high riding fastballs, the similar profiles. And so in a 6-game series, sometimes you can feel like that you need to do something different than the guy did before you, because you're the same type of pitcher. And then the next thing you know, maybe you're not throwing as many strikes. So yeah, River Ryan is a guy that has a very high profile. And I'm very excited about him because he has, just of course, he's not in the 40-man. I say this all the time. That's not because he's not as good as Nick Frasso or Landon Knack. That's only because he was not eligible for the Rule 5 draft, of which River Ryan and Landon Knack were. That's why he didn't get put on the 40-man. It has nothing to do with potential or talent.
Yeah, no, that stuff is serious. That slider, that fastball. Also, too, you don't have as much mileage on that arm, too. When you look, he's almost some untapped potential. The age is where it's at, but yeah, he's a very intriguing prospect. Now, Kyle Hurt is someone who, of course, Dodgers fans got to see. You saw he made light work of that Padres line with Tatis and Soto, Machado. To me, what really stands out with Kyle Hurt is that fastball plays in the zone. His stuff plays in the zone. He misses bats, that changeup with the tumble, the way it has that fade, the whiff rate of it. Kyle Hurt is someone who I think it feels like next season he could have a prominent role, maybe towards the end of the year, get an opportunity in that Dodgers bullpen in the show. Yeah,
so here's the deal. You mentioned Ryan Pepio, Gavin Stone earlier. So the first lesson, you kind of have that eureka moment, I call it, where, hey, if I do everything perfectly at the major league level, if I execute everything perfectly, I can get outs, right? Oh, that's cool. Okay, so then the next step in confidence is, well, what if I don't execute perfectly? What happens then? So then when you realize, hey, my stuff's actually good enough to get guys out when I'm not pitching perfectly. Does that make sense? That's when you really know you got something that's really good at the major league level. That's Kyle Hurt.
Yeah.
So Kyle Hurt doesn't have to pitch to the margins. He doesn't have to pitch perfectly. He doesn't have to try to throw the perfect pitch. All he has to do is throw strikes a lot of times, and he's going to get – that's how good his fastball is, his changeup, and then that bullet slider that he likes to call. And I asked him point blank, what is the one thing that you need to do to be successful? And he said, just repeat my delivery. It's literally that simple for him. The exciting part, you mentioned it, Doug, about him is the fact that it's entirely up to him. We know his stuff gets the best hitters in the major leagues out, and it gets them out while he is in the zone with it, correct? That's really the telling tale right there. It's one thing to say, hey, if a guy paints the corner here, he throws a perfect changeup, okay. It's another thing also to say, just throw it in the zone, you get out. That's Kyle Hurt. Okay, so it's entirely up to him. If he repeats his delivery, if he is in the strike zone and challenging hitters, he is a very good major league pitcher. So that's what's very exciting about him is the fact that it's all on him.
I love it, man. It's that big boy stuff, just attacking hitters. He's someone who I think the world of as far as this stuff. Do you see him more as a mid-rotation starter as his ceiling? Or do you think that, okay, this is someone with his mix, you just go ahead and see if he can be that high leverage at the bullpen?
It's one or the other. I think his stuff is so good that you either need him to start games and set the tone for you, or you need him to be at the back end of games and getting the most important outs. His stuff is too electric. It's too good to be in the middle part of the games. It's too good just to be the guy that you consider just getting you through the middle innings. Does that make sense to you? I don't care which way they go with him. I don't care if they make him a starter. I don't care if they make him a closer, but I want him in the most important parts of the game. That's the role I would put him in. He doesn't care where he pitches. He just wants it to be in the major leagues, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just love him as a high leverage bullpen weapon. Almost see him as someone who you could just step onto the scene and surprise hitters in the postseason. I'll just get these good vibes from Hurt. Now, as far as Andy Pages, of course, he missed most of the 2023 season with that labrum tear at only 142 plate appearances, but still, this is someone, lots of power, lots of ability. He is someone else who drops some weight. You look at the home run to fly ball rates, the way they're at. I mean, he lifts the ball, he hits a lot of fly balls, but what do you like about Andy Pages, Casey?
Well, first of all, the arm, him and Jose Ramos, I think I would love to see a competition. Hey, just get Andy Pages and Jose Ramos, put them in the outfield, and let's let them throw together. And let's see who has a better arm, right? That'd be a hell of a lot of fun, I think, because those guys, they don't have cannons, they have howitzers. I mean, Andy Pages, I've seen him throw 8 to 9 to 10 balls that you just, I mean, you're talking about dudes on a professional field that just watch them throw and go, holy smokes. I know Cody Hosey's caught a couple, and it's like, I can't believe I just saw that throw from Andy Pages right over at third base. So the arm obviously is big time. You mentioned the weight loss, anywhere from 25 to 35 pounds last year. One thing that did for him, it allowed him to play center field. He was playing a lot more center field. So the Dodgers love that versatility. He's played a lot of right field, played some left field last year, played more center field. So if he keeps the weight down, he profiles at any position that you would like him to play. I think right field's probably his everyday position. But again, if you have Mookie Betts out there or whatever that may be, he has the versatility to play whatever role you want him to. You mentioned the fly balls. He had more home runs than any minor leaguer. I believe it was 2 years ago in the system. His home run per fly ball rate is north of 14, which is in the elite category, no doubt about it. And that's because with his bat angle, he's able to create lift in his swing without what I call loft, which means he's able to get a bat angle that gets the ball in the air without having to lift his hands. And because of that, his strikeout rates aren't insane. You know, guys that swing with a negative bat angle, meaning the barrel below the hands, and they lift the hands, yes, they hit the ball in the air a lot, but boy, do they have a lot of holes in their swing. So I think that's what makes Andy Pages unique, is that he's able to get the ball in the air without having to lift the hands too much.
Yeah, it feels like he can just cover all the quadrants of the zone right there, too. He's not just someone who has like tons of cold zones everywhere. He's really a complete power hitter. I see him as someone who could definitely be that corner outfielder. I mean, yeah, lots of potential, lots of talent there. Now, as far as Landon Knack, he's so refined. He's so polished. You look at what he can do on the mound. I think he's someone who we could see this season. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and he was taxied about 2 or 3 times last year. Yeah. Just didn't quite get the trigger pulled to get him in, right? So this is a guy that's been around L.A. He's in L.A. right now. Best shape of his life. Totally fired up for 2024. No doubt about it. Landon Knack is a guy that you mentioned refined, no doubt about it. He is a guy that has 4 pitches. It profiles as 4 pitches, no doubt about it. He'll tell you 4 pitches, but it could work anywhere up to 5 to 6 pitches, depending on how he wants to shape his slider. He can make it more bullet shaped to get it in the zone early in counts. He can give it more depth later in counts, kind of like we saw Pepio do last year. So it could be, that slider can play as 2 to 3 different pitches. So he is a guy that will throw all 4 pitches in the zone in any count. I've seen it over and over. He is basically, in my opinion, he's the minor league version of Lucas Giolito. He's just a guy that goes out there and will just attack you in a million different ways, and he will throw strikes with all of them, and he will just be very efficient from that perspective. Do not look at his baseball savant numbers at the end of last year. He was dealing with injuries. So if you look at it and it says 91, 92, wait, 95, why is this thing going kind of like Nick Frasso? It's because they were both dealing with injuries, and that led to a lot of inconsistencies. That is what led to the inconsistencies in their velos. So don't look at the underlying metrics towards the end of last year. I can tell you he is 100% healthy, and he is pumped up for 2024.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big year for him. Some opportunities could come his way as long as he just attacks, stays confident, that pitch mix. I like what you said right there, too, just attacking hitters with all of his pitches. That's what you love. When hitters are just, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what pitches are coming that way, and you got pitches on the mound like Knack. They'll just come at them with all their pitches. They're confident each pitch to go out there and get outs. Now, Diego Cartaya might be one of the most discussed prospects as far as his drop-off down. A lot of prospect rankings lists from Baseball America to Perspective, whatever it may be, people are saying, oh, he's on the decline. I mean, they look at that 189 batting average that he posted in Tulsa. The whiffs were up. He's not great at picking up spin. What is your take on Diego Cartaya and where he's at in his development right now?
I think he is a catcher that is grinding his way through the minor leagues, and this happens even to the Will Smith-type catchers, to where you're a highly ranked prospect. You have all this attention, and you're in the Dodgers organization, which is just a world of attention. The next thing you know, it's June, and you're hitting $180, and you're like, wow, what in the world's going on? And that monkey jumps on your back. You feel the pressure. Then all of a sudden you start pressing. I have not talked. I had about 6 different chances to interview Diego last year. I didn't do it because I just don't like to talk to guys whenever I know it's not going the way that they want. I mean, what are you going to ask them, right? I mean, what's good? There's nothing positive that can come out of the interview. So I declined to do that with him several different occasions from the simple perspective that I knew that he was pressing. So that's my opinion. I have not asked him. That's just me speculating based on me seeing him probably 25 to 30 times in person. So Diego Cartaya is a young man that I'm not concerned about whatsoever at this point. This coming year is going to be huge. If you struggle 2 years in a row or even a year and a half in a row, that's pretty telling. I'm not worried about the 1 year, especially from what I saw last year. He went out and did all the extra work throwing down. He became remarkably better defensively, right? And Coach and Scott Hennessy, the AA manager, who thank God beat cancer this last year. They call him Henny, the mayor of Drillville. He would always tell Diego, hey, Diego, don't try to be the Dodgers' #1 prospect. Just go out and be Diego Cartaya. That's all you can do, because if you're trying to go out there and be the Dodgers' #1 prospect, you're going to press, you're not going to be comfortable, and you're not going to be as good as you should be. So I think that monkey jumped on his back. I think in terms of in the box, I think the spin part of it is the fact that he wasn't able to get to the inside fastball. Those two are tied together. So he's kind of that guy that has the negative bat angle I was talking about earlier, and then also lists the hands, which means that a lot of times when you get that inside pitch, the only way that you can hit it is if you roll over that ball like a tennis racket, which means at the same time, if you do that, that breaking ball on the outer half is going to go right outside of your barrel. I think that part of it right there is the reason why he struggled on fastballs on the inner half at times, which also was tied to the fact that with the same issue also led to the breaking ball away. Just my opinion.
Yeah, because, I mean, this is someone he's always crushed fastballs, right? I mean, but now you're saying it's a problem area in the inner half.
Yes.
Do you think it's the swing's too big? It's a mechanical flaw? How confident are you they get this corrected from a mechanical level?
I think it's a really minor tweak, and I think it's hard to make at a AA level when your manager is not with you for 3 or 4 months because he's fighting. Hey, Juan Apodaca, Oppo did a wonderful, matter of fact, whenever Henny went down, the Dodgers thought they were going to have to bring in a whole bunch of different guys like Austin Chubb and roving instructors. But Oppo did such a wonderful job that they just left him alone and let him manage. So Apodaca did a great job filling in for Henny. But you get off to a bad start, then you don't have your manager that you trust so much, and then all this kind of stuff. So I think making the adjustments last year were difficult for him, especially seeing that he's still young. I think that he's one real small, or maybe a couple of really small, not big, real small tweaks away from just being just fine.
Yeah, I'm not selling my Diego Cartaya stock. I mean, this guy, the power is still there, right? I mean, maybe he's not going to be this higher on-base percentage guy that's going to hit 30-plus home runs, but still, I think the talent is apparent. He's still young enough, and everything you point out during the show about how difficult it is to really cross that bridge from AA to AAA and really just kind of going through those learning moments there and just kind of growing. It's just all part of the process. Now, last one, couple questions here. We always got to end the show on this one, Casey. One, what is your hottest Dodgers prospect take right now? By the way, I want to give you a shout out. I love that series, doing the hot take series where you put it up in a little snippet. I think that's fantastic. But what is your hottest Dodgers prospect take right now, Mr. Casey Porter?
Austin Gauthier was the best minor league offensive player, period, into discussion last year. Austin Brubaker, my wonderful co-host on Dodgers Dogs, the hot takes. He has all of those numbers, and I just kind of sit there and listen to him going, oh my God, I kind of come at it from the coach's perspective, and he's got all these great numbers. When you look at the WRC plus and you look at the bat to ball skills that Austin Gauthier had last year, the thing that I love about the way that Austin broke it down is he compared it to other guys who have done that as well, guys like Mookie Betts, and the ability to become a major leaguer based on having a WRC plus that's 150 or above is like 75 to 76%. So the type of year that he had last year at the AA level would suggest that he has a 75, 76% chance of being a major leaguer because of that. And then not only that, once you become a major leaguer, guys who post a WRC plus of 150 or above, they have a 25% chance of becoming an all-star. Now, I'm not saying Austin Gauthier is going to do that. What I am saying is he can play everywhere across the infield. And then also he was an undrafted free agent. So for him to go from being an undrafted free agent out of Hofstra to having a season like he had last year with 150 whatever WRC plus, which if you just look at the hardcore data, suggests that he has 75% chance of becoming a major leaguer, that is greatly beating the odds. And so from that, I think that's a pretty big hot take.
I love it. I love it. By the way, big shout out to Austin Brubaker, who, in my opinion, does have the number one best hair in all of Dodgers media. So definitely he's got the best show flow right there. By the way, good thing he doesn't cover the Yankees. If you cover the Yankees, you'd have to cut his hair, right? I mean, that's how it how that works. Right. So that's definitely cool to have. And yeah, I love that with Gauthier. I think he's someone that you see all over Twitter, highlights of him. And yeah, those numbers, they don't lie, right? Those numbers definitely indicators of future success. Now, Casey, give us a hidden gem that a lot of Dodgers fans might not know about that does have some high upside at the minor league level.
Ricky Vanasco would be the first guy at the AAA level. You know, I'd heard his name. Hey, well, what's he doing on the roster? What's he doing? You know, what? Maybe he's the first guy to be DFA'd. I can tell you that the Rangers used him as a starter. He was on their 40-man roster, and we'll get to some younger guys here, but I want to get to a guy that I think is going to make his major league debut next year. And then they just didn't see the progress in him, so they DFA'd him. The Dodgers got him. They sent him to the complex. They move him to the pen, and I'm telling you, man, Ricky Vanasco, he was awesome for both Tulsa and then Oklahoma City. So whenever the season ended, he became a free agent. I was like, are you kidding me? The Dodgers aren't going to re-sign this guy? I can't believe that. And then they did re-sign him to a major league contract, of which it was not surprising whatsoever. If you followed Ricky Vanasco at all, he was never, ever a candidate to be DFA'd. He just had that good of an end to last year. So I think Dodgers fans will be super, super, super excited to watch his major league debut. In terms of a guy at the lower levels, the Maytag, Jack Dreyer, whose dad, Steve Dreyer, by the way, played on the last Oklahoma City team to win the PCL. I believe it's 96, 97, something like that. And by the way, was the first guy in relief in Nolan Ryan's last game that he pitched professionally with the Texas Rangers. Jack Dreyer, he set a record in Iowa in the state championship game for the most amount of strikeouts in one game. Had a really good freshman season at Iowa. He actually, his first win was against my Oklahoma State Cowboys. I remember him just shoving in that game. So I was super excited when I heard that name. And then he just went on the injury train. Tommy John, all that. Finally made it back last year. And man, was he good. And his velo, as he's getting further away from his TJ and his injuries, he thinks that he can probably sit 95, 96, something like that. With the massive curveball, we talked about it earlier. The thing that profiles about him that is so exciting is that he can get hitters out both north and south with the big curveball and the high riding four seam, and east and west with the bullet type of cutter type pitch and the two seam. So he's a north, south, and east west guy. And by the way, Doug, he can put together a Rubik's Cube in 14 seconds. And I'm not sure he couldn't beat whoever the lady's name was on Queen's Gambit in chess. He is that type of analytical guy. He's awesome, man. The Maytag, Jack Dreyer.
The Maytag, a fascinating player. And those are the names that excite me, that kind of stuff. I love that. Do the Rubik's Cube test, play some chess. This guy is just a world-renowned thinker. I love it. Now, as far as last question, I always want to ask you this question, Casey. I'm going to ask you this question every now and then. And it's kind of in short, what is the state of the Dodgers farm system right now, as far as compared to years past, compared to the talent that's currently in it? How would you kind of compare to other farm systems right now? Just what is the current state of the Dodgers farm system, in your opinion?
Well, it's loaded at catcher. You know, you got Freddie Freeman, you got Dalton Rushing, possibly Diego Cartaya. You could move all these guys to first base. You have the thing that I really like what they've done this offseason. You've gotten Trey Sweeney. You also have Austin Gauthier. You've reloaded your talent, especially last year's draft with Jordan Thompson. You have Wilman Diaz, Rayndon Cone, all these guys. You've replenished the middle part of your infield. Third base, I think maybe an Alex Freeland could move over there. Who knows? But I think you're okay there. The outfield prospects, Kenny George, you got Scott Hope. You got Josue De Paula, Jose Ramos. You got Andy Paez, Ryan Ward. So you're fine in the outfield. And then we know about the pitching, especially from the right side. And then what you did was, one of the aspects of the big club was that you need a high leverage lefty. You moved Ronan Kopp to the pen, who was just simply lights out. So you have a left-handed closer type coming, him and both Benoni Robles, left-handed closer types. And then you added a left-handed starter, which was something you needed because you moved Alec Gamboa and John Rooney to the pen. Then you dealt Lyle Lockhart Jr. last year. So really you were left with Maddox Bruns, Justin Robleski being the extent of your left-handed starting pitchers. So by adding Jackson Ferris, that made a tremendous amount of sense as far as the depth, as far as your left-handed starters went. So what the Dodgers have done, as good as they are, it's not just about, I say this all the time, it's not just about the value of the player, it's how they put the puzzle together. Hey, we're a little bit shallow in this part of our organization, so we need to fill the depth in here. That's what they've done the last 2 years with their depth. Oh, don't let me forget Jake Geloff at third base, by the way, who's going to be big time. I'm just going to tell you that. I know I said don't wait till they're in Double-A. This dude has massive power. Then Joe Vitrano at first base. I love that guy too. So they really filled in the holes. So I would say, obviously your top-end talent is awesome like it always is. But I think right now as we speak, this is the most balanced across every single position and every single hole and or need that Dodgers farm system has been since I've been covering it.
Well, that sounds very encouraging, and that's one of the big reasons why the Guggenheim Group was so different than the McCourt Group.
Yes.
You address this farm system. It's the gift that keeps giving year in and year out. Just everyone behind it from top to bottom. I mean, the whole system is designed for them not to have an elite farm system, but they continue to develop, and it's one of the big reasons why this Dodgers team is one of, if not the best organizations, not just in baseball, but in all of professional sports. And you, Casey, are one of the top experts when it comes to Dodgers prospects in the world too, and really cannot thank you enough for joining us here on Dodgers Dugout here at Dodgers Nation. And if you are watching this and you are a Dodgers fan, go right now, go on YouTube, Dodgers Daily. Be sure to subscribe to his channel, subscribe to his podcast so you know all things Dodgers prospects. Also follow him over on Twitter at Dodgers_Daily. Mr. Casey Porter, it's always a great time talking ball with you, my man. And thanks a lot, Casey.
Hey, no problem. It's 19 degrees with a 28-mile-an-hour north wind outside here in Oklahoma. So it was wonderful to get into the warm weather and talk some Dodgers baseball. Let's go.